And I'm Jay Thomas from CBS's Love and War. And I want you to remember that the phone number is 1-800-842-2200. This is Flood Aid, broadcast across America. And we're here today to hopefully bring some happiness and, of course, some rebuilding to these people that have been devastated. Willard?
And between the three of us, he's the only one that's not a weatherman, so he may know what's happening.
You're right. You're absolutely
Listen,
right.
we are so honored to be here. I know I can speak for all of us. This is the 150th birthday of the beautiful city of Des Moines. And you know something? People in America want so desperately to help, and that's why we're here tonight. Now, listen, telethons usually go 24 hours or 2 days. This is 1 hour.
That's right.
You only have 1 hour in which to call. We need your love, your support, but we need your money.
And this 1 hour program is unprecedented, Willard, in the history of television broadcasting, because in a business in which we generally compete against each other, tonight we're all working together. We have 300 television stations cutting across all the major networks, cable systems, hundreds of radio stations, independent stations, all coming together, reaching about 62 million homes in America. That's about 70% of the public. So this is truly flood aid broadcast across America.
You know something else? The federal folks can do only so much. The beautiful Red Cross, the Salvation Army, the independent church groups, they can only do so much. Now, tonight, please,
Pace from Des Moines, and Linda, your question for the president.
Yes, Mr. President, we all know that aid has been promised to this area, but we want to know how soon is it going to arrive. In addition to that, we want to know, are there safeguards that are going to be put into place that'll prevent this from ever happening again?
The aid should be there very soon. Of course, some of the emergency aid is there.
That would equate to something like 50 feet of snow if it were wintertime. It has been horrible. 11 million people here in Des Moines alone without drinking water, all up and down the Mississippi, and the flood continues because the river is moving on further south. The southern part of the Mississippi still hasn't reached its peak yet. Please, we need your money. You Americans want to help Americans. You're the most generous people in the world. You help everybody else. Now it's time to help ourselves. 1-800-842-2200. Here now, take a look at some videotape showing you our Des Moines story.
I'm Kevin Cooney, news anchor for KCCI TV in Des Moines. This is the Des Moines Waterworks, ground zero in a battle between Mother Nature and the citizens of central Iowa. Early on the morning of July 11th, Mother Nature won that battle. The Des Moines Waterworks provides water for some 250,000 residents of the city and its suburbs. When the raging waters of the Raccoon River swamped the plant, the largest single water outage in the history of the United States was on.
It's terrible. I think it's going to affect people, and they don't even know how badly it's going to affect them and for how long.
Because there's no water. And there's flood.
Even as Des Moines area residents jammed grocery stores in search of bottled water, government leaders worked quickly to set up water distribution sites all over town. We quickly learned not to take water for granted.
We watch on the news things like Sarajevo and think, my, how unfortunate those people are. And they've been going through that for a year, and we're going to have to go through it for a week.
Without water, Des Moines residents learned to make do, collecting rainwater from gutters for washing and flushing toilets. Portable showers sprung up, bringing some much-needed relief.
We saw you walk out of there. It looked like you emerged a new man.
I did. I did. My wife will say so, too.
Back at the Des Moines Waterworks, technicians worked frantically to bring the plant back online.
Our critical thing still is the pumps. And we are working right now, and we're going to be using the big helicopter to be able to pluck those things right out of there, load them onto a truck, and send them off to be repaired.
And thousands of central Iowans gathered not far away, filling sandbags and building up the levee should the Raccoon River rise again. They even got a little presidential help.
It's going to show the country that we're really putting things together, but we need more help.
The National Guard pitched in too, dropping sandbags by the hundreds around the waterworks plant in a frantic race against the clock and the possibility of more flooding.
They said if we can get her done, hold it off, they'll have water back in the pipes in a week. Right over here.
That would be none too soon for Des Moines firefighters, facing this million-dollar blaze with empty fire hydrants. Large water tanker trucks rolled with every fire truck on every call, and firefighters prayed they'd have enough water to do the job.
There's no water, as we know, in Des Moines, and there's no water in the main, so this is our life support, basically.
Des Moines hospitals hauled water, too, until the military set up emergency water purification units that could turn muddy river water into the good stuff. The city was coping, but residents were ready to get their water back.
Open it all right.
Oh, good deal.
Des Moines residents, after 12 long days, finally had their water back for flushing and bathing.
Okay.
But we're still waiting for the all clear that the water is safe to drink.
Can't get any more in there.
I'm WOI News anchor Pauletta Longo. Behind me, you see some of the signs of destruction left behind by the floods of '93. When creeks and rivers started rising, Ames was one of the first cities in Mother Nature's path. This was the first sign of serious trouble. Torrential rains and damaging winds swept across north-central Iowa. The Squaw Creek and Skunk River lapped at their banks. Manhole covers sounded a warning. Volunteers began sandbagging, but no one was prepared for what morning brought. One of the city's main thoroughfares was underwater. Over 100 businesses in Ames were damaged. On the Iowa State campus, floodwaters swallowed up university buildings. 14 feet of water moved into Hilton Coliseum, the home of the Iowa State Cyclones. At the King City Trailer Park, 60 out of 63 mobile homes were destroyed. People there lost everything. In just a few short hours, the high waters did millions of dollars in damage.
I went to work that Friday morning, and they called me at work and told me I couldn't come home.
And now, almost 3 weeks later, people are still hurting. King City Trailer Park is a ghost town. David and Ruth Sin have moved out, but make a trip back to wait for an insurance adjuster.
This upset.
Yet the spirits of even those who have lost so much have been raised by the outpouring of volunteer support. It's a double-edged story with both pain and inspiration.
You can see it in their eyes and read it on their faces, the strain and pain of the region's worst natural disaster.
And take each one and cook them up, and they'll dry out.
And they might not,
they might not be perfect, but we'll be able to make them. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Look at that. Those are almost great.
Shirley Andrews of West Des Moines learns the photos of her grandchildren ravaged by floodwaters will never be the same. For Shirley and thousands of others like her, life will never be the same.
These folks had very little. And what they had, they lost.
The losses are staggering. Whole neighborhoods swallowed up. Businesses that weathered the recession sink under the fury of floodwaters. When a lifeline is needed, it steps forward in the form of a volunteer. Volunteers by the thousands show up to fight the battle of their lives.
What's the motivation? What's drawing everybody down here?
I just think a sense of trying to help out and knowing that this happened to you and you were one of the people who got hit the hardest, everybody down here helping you out.
And I know if I was down and out like some of them, I would be very happy to get what we're trying to give.
By any means and from all parts, they descend on the city, roll up their sleeves, and pitch in. The volunteers ask for nothing in return. They know they are needed. They know they are appreciated.
But they're so torn out what happened. They're crying, and you have to walk away and just keep doing the work so you don't feel their pain. You're just trying to keep your distance and do what you got to do.
And they did what they had to do. As one wave of volunteers would tire, another line would form. Their spirit and energy gave new life to a tired city. Perhaps their greatest gift wasn't the work they did, but the feeling of hope they left behind.
We'll be back. We will.
Don't bet against them. This is John Bachman for Flood Aid, broadcast across America.
Or is it Robert E. Lee? Are we back in business?
We are back in business live. 1-800-842-2200 is the number. By the way, we've had over 1 million calls. Is it 1.5 million yet?
Isn't that terrific?
And we've been on the air maybe 20 minutes, so thank you very much.
That's
Visa,
wonderful. Isn't that great? Thank you.
MasterCard, American Express. And remember, we're just here for 1 hour, and folks have already started calling. If we'll leave the air sooner than that, they'll give more money.
People have pledged if we'll get off the air at least $2,000 a minute to get back. Listen, I have a little surprise. Reach in my pocket. I have a nice donation here. Of course, I knew about this because I put it in my pocket. It is a check, and show them the check, and then tell them from whom it's from. See the check? There's a real honest-to-goodness check.
This was like one of Roseanne Barr's paychecks. It's a check for $100,000.
100, and from whom?
From the Johnny Carson Foundation that we just got. Johnny, of course.
Isn't that terrific?
Frame-
God bless.
Do I keep this?
From Norfolk, Nebraska, isn't that right? He thinks he's from Des Moines. That's why he gave the money.
Local
Thank
flood
you.
aid stations, if you want to cut away, now is the time to do it.
We're basically living out a hotel.